Inverse of matrices and matrix equations, part 2. We looked at identity matrices. We showed that matrices were inverses of one another. When we multiply them together, when we multiply two matrices together and get the identity matrix, then we can say those two matrices are inverses. Now, what if I wanted to find the inverse? Let's say we just have one matrix, matrix A, and I want to find the inverse to matrix A. These are steps that you would do by hand. You would augment your original matrix with the identity matrix. You would perform row operations. We never did that because our calculator does that, but then once we do our row operations, RREF in our calculator, what happens is the identity that was on the right is now the identity on the left. If I take the identity on the right, do RREF, and now the identity is on the left, then this becomes the inverse of matrix A. Okay? That's method 1. Method 2 is best. What do we do with method 2? Method 2, we just look for this operation on our graphing calculator, and then we have a quick answer. Okay, so if we put in matrix A, so I'm going to clear that out. We're going to say second matrix, edit A. The instructions here would be find the inverse if it exists. It's not every matrix has an inverse. Find the inverse if it exists. Okay, so we're going to plug in our matrix 1, negative 2, negative 4, 2, negative 3, negative 6, negative 3, 6, and 15. Okay, so let's see what matrix A contains. I always check to make sure that I put in everything correctly. And okay, so there's matrix A. The instructions here would say find the inverse of matrix A. Find the inverse of matrix A if it exists. It doesn't always exist. Okay, so we're going to say second matrix A. And if you look right here, you have x to the negative 1. So I'm going to hit that x to the negative 1 button. Now I'm trying to find the inverse of A. These often have fractions, and you can see over here that this one does have fractions. So automatically I just put answer in fraction. Okay, so we do have an inverse. The inverse is negative 320, 41, negative 3. Same thing that we would have gotten if we'd have worked this by hand. Okay, so we're finding the inverse. We only have one of the matrices. We want to find the inverse of that matrix if it exists. Okay, so find the inverse if it exists. Okay, so we hit second matrix edit. We put in our 3 by 3 matrix. We've got 4, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. Okay, second quit. We're going to clear this out. Okay, so let's see. What's in matrix A? I want to make sure that I put everything in the right way, and we have. So then I say second matrix A, and then we're going to go for this. It's right below the math button, x to the negative 1. That's the inverse button. Find A inverse if it exists. Most of the time, these have fractional answers. So I'm going to say if it exists, find it in fraction form. It exists, and it didn't have fractions, but we're prepared, should it have. There's our inverse matrix. Okay, so let's look at the next problem. Find the inverse if it exists. Okay, so we're going to go second matrix edit. Go ahead and put in our entries. We've got a 3 by 3 matrix. So then we have 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so second quit. We're going to clear the screen out. I'm going to go in and see what I put into matrix A. I'm going to go in and see what I put into matrix A. Double check. Everything looks good. So then I say second matrix A, inverse. Most of these do have a lot of fractions, so I just automatically say answer in fraction. Hit enter, and there's A inverse. Okay, so here's matrix A. Does matrix A have an inverse? Yes, it did. It's right here. This would be A inverse.